I'm focused on this theory cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, welcome back to News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Minneapolis, how Trump is shifting a bit in strategy as far as PR and other things like that. Some of the crazy things and responses from Democrats as well. Information that was learned by the other day, but I couldn't convey it because I wasn't able to go live yesterday. But that Alex Preddy, he actually apparently had run-ins with Border Patrol before, or at least federal agents before, that resulted, apparently, according to a CNN article, resulted in him having like a broken rib. And does that change what the officers knew in that moment? I guess they could have been aware of him, but probably not. So will that change ultimately what they decide in their investigation and how they're going to charge them or not charge them? Maybe not, but it just still speaks to the lack of wisdom with these people. And I'm still pleading with people to not engage in this stuff. It's still so bizarre to me. But also, yesterday was International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that, but again, I wasn't able to go live, so I just want to share some thoughts about when I went to the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem last year, and just thinking about different rhetoric and things going on today in the world. So before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys, go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it just costs a stream. From my side, all that good stuff you guys get support. I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. If you guys want to check out any merch, there's merch available online that you guys can check out. You guys can also check out different books and other things that I've written as well if you want to check out my nonfiction stuff, but I do have a lot of fiction stuff you guys want to check out as well. So you guys can easily find that stuff if you go to blacktnews.com. There's a merchandise page with a link at the top with some of my books on it that'll take you to my book website. But there's a direct link to Bigger, which is behind me there. That's my children's picture book. So yesterday I was I was about to go live, and I heard an explosion. And I'm like, what is that? And I like instantly lost power. So it was not my fault. I wasn't like an illness or anything like that. I hope nobody was worried about the sudden cancellation, but we had to call, like the energy folks, and they had to come out and do stuff, and it took a couple hours to restore power. And so it was starting to get cold, and I'm like, somebody pick me up. I had to get out of there. So, yeah, I'm not sure what happened. Maybe a transformer blew or something, but I was like, what is that? But I'm okay. I'm okay. So yesterday, something that was interesting that I learned that I was going to share, was some information about Alex, and there was a CNN article, and it's interesting how people read stuff and digest information, and then they come to like different conclusions, because we got this information that he had run-ins with federal immigration officers before, and other folks have reported on it, but CNN was first that I saw report on it. And federal immigration officers have been collecting personal information about protesters and agitators in Minneapolis, sources told CNN, and had documented details about Alex Preddy before he was shot to death on Saturday. It is unclear how Preddy first came to the attention of federal authorities, but sources told CNN about a week before his death, he suffered a broken rib when a group of federal officers tackled him while he was protesting their attempt to detain individuals. In a statement, the Department of Homeland Security said that DHS law enforcement has no record of this incident. A memo sent earlier this month to agents temporarily assigned to the city asked them to capture all images, license plates, identifications, and general information on hotels, agitators, protesters, etc., so we can capture it all in one consolidated form, according to correspondence reviewed by CNN. Preddy's previous encounter is another reflection of the aggressive approach federal agents are taking with observers and protesters, philosophically underscored by the request for agents to collect information about protesters whose activities are broadly protected by the First Amendment. If broadly protected, if you're just protesting, if you're going around trying, like, one person I was going back and forth with in the comment section, and I'm like, do you think these people who are blowing the whistles, blocking traffic, following the ICE agents, harassing them, and all kinds of stuff, do you think that they want immigration officers to be able to successfully detain these people? And they said probably not. I'm like, okay, do you think that some of these people who are taking the actions are doing it to stop them from doing it? And then they don't want to really admit to that, because I'm like, because if they're doing these actions to stop them from doing their job, they are participating in obstruction. You going somewhere and holding up a sign with, like, I don't know, ice melting or something, that's a protest. Like, you go ahead, you get a permit, maybe you're doing it on your private sidewalk or whatever. You deciding that you're going to block a road, block an intersection so people can't drive through, or you deciding to have it out and physically, wrestle federal agents. Maybe they're detaining someone else and you want to protect that person being detained. You see them going after a family that they're going to detain or whatever, and you want to interject yourself into that situation and help them get away or stop them from detaining them. That is not you trying to just peacefully protest. That is you engaging in obstruction. You cannot like what happened to Alex and then just admit that some of these people are going out to obstruct. And it is interesting, like, a lot that I saw people, on, I guess, the left looking at this particular article, and their mind goes to just how aggressive or violent DHS is, and that's what they think. And my mind is, this person is a repeat offender and then decided to engage with them while he was armed. That's another bonkers thing going on to me. I can't conceive it. I can't conceive of it. of doing something so so I'll just say stupid. It's interesting. I saw a video yesterday, and I think it was yesterday early morning, and it was of this white liberal guy on TikTok, and he said, for all of you, if you're Black and you're saying that, oh, you don't care that these people are being deported, that's got nothing to do with us, he says it does have something to do with you. And then he, like, goes on to try to say that brown people or Black people are being deported and other stuff like that. And before, I never saw the original video, and I can't find the original video because I sure want to find the original video, but he ended up deleting it. And the reason why he ended up deleting it is because he was trying to reach out to Black MAGA people who are like, no, we want mass deportations. Go ahead and do the thing. He wanted to reach out to them and say, basically, like, you could be next, or people like you are being rounded up, and you could be detained even if you're an American citizen, and to try to list situations and I don't know, scare people into compliance, right? The people who reacted to it were Black people on the left. And the Black people on the left were basically like, no, it still ain't got nothing to do with us. And their attitudes were Black people have been harassed by law enforcement all this time, and now y'all want to complain and do something, and y'all want us to interject ourselves into this particular fight on top of all the fights that we've had to have before. And so he was getting lectured and roasted in all kinds of different ways. And I thought I thought his video and the response to it was pretty interesting, because as he was trying to reach, Black MAGA people, and all these other Black people on the left were basically like, go check your white privilege. was basically kind of their attitude toward this guy. Now, it is really funny to me because I never bought, and not only did I not buy, but it was inaccurate, the sort of ideology that BLM was pushing into the atmosphere, the ideology that police are hunting down Black people. It just wasn't accurate, wasn't true. When a Reuters data scientist tried to put that out there for the staff at Reuters, he ended up being let go from Reuters because he triggered other people who worked at the news agency about the truth, and he had all this data. There's a long article that he wrote on a Substack, like why I got fired from Reuters, and he ended up quoting a Black Harvard professor who got a lot of flack for doing a report on interactions with police and Black people, and came to the conclusion that they're not going around, to killing a bunch of Black folks and all that stuff either. So I didn't buy that sort of narrative. I pushed back very hard on it during 2020. But what's interesting to me is that people, not just the Black activists from BLM and so on, but the white savior complex people were also spreading that narrative. They were doing their Black squares, their hashtags, retweeting Black voices, saying stuff themselves, kneeling in the streets, and all kinds of crazy stuff to promote this idea that Black people were in such terrible danger when they were around law enforcement. And even at the 2020 debate, we didn't really have a lot of conversation. There was no main debate about foreign policy. There are kind of very few questions about that, which would have been like Trump's, bright spot to really dominate. But one debate ended up being canceled for reasons. But the last debate, Kristen Rucker, I can't think of her last name or how to exactly pronounce her last name, but Welker. She was a moderator, and she brought up how Black Americans were having the talk. And the talk is you having to sit your children down and explain to them how you act when you're pulled over or whatever, when you have interactions with the police, because if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you could be killed. Now, and that was a larger conversation about race in America and racism and policing and so on, because that was the era of BLM and all this stuff going on. And no doubt that it was on people's minds. But that was a huge focus of the debate, because I think because they really wanted to highlight and make Trump look bad or whatever. But and there was all this kind of unrest going on while he was president. So that was the question. Now, at the time when they asked that question, I'm like, white people sit down and have those conversations with their kids too, don't they? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you teach your kids to be respectful or whatever when you're dealing with the police, and no ma'am, yes ma'am. Like, here's my ID. Like, if you're armed, especially if you're armed, like, you let them know. Like, you put your hands on the steering wheel. You just let them know, like, hey officer, I do have a firearm on me. Like, is it okay if I reach for it? Like, or I have a firearm in my glove compartment, just so you know. Just if you have an issue with the officer, you try to be still respectful as possible and get their badge number. You take the issue up later. Like, you don't engage, and you don't do a bunch of crazy stuff. And again, they really tried to make this a big racial question, but I'm like, I'm sure white people have this conversation with their kids, but that was the mood of the country, that Black people were especially in danger from law enforcement. And there was a viral video of a woman having an interaction with someone in the woods, and she started to call the police, or threatened to call the police. And she was engaging with a Black guy, and the comments were immediately like, she's calling the police, she's trying to get him killed. Like, that was the mindset of people during that time. So I brought all that up to say it's very bizarre to me that, I guess we'll just say, white liberals were of this mindset that if brown people had any kind of interaction with law enforcement, they were likely to die. But they can go and stalk them, follow them day and night, that they can scream in their faces, do all kinds of different stuff, and be surprised, I guess, when something happens. I'm not saying I want something to happen, but I'm just baffled that they just had this separate view of what would happen to Black people in America, and all the things that are not going to happen to them, like this disillusion sort of mindset. And I guess I was talking to my sister about this the other day. I'm like, is this the white privilege I was hearing about all this time, that they just believe that they're on some kind of untouchable level, that they can do all of this crazy nonsense, and there's no kind of repercussions, like even with people just getting shot in the face with a pepper ball or something like that, like, or oh my gosh, I'm being detained. I've seen so many videos of people like, oh my gosh, I'm being detained, and Black people in the comments like, yeah, when you obstruct, or maybe you're just with somebody who's done an illegal thing, sometimes they're gonna take you both, and once they find out that you ain't got nothing to do with it, they'll let you go. That's just kind of like how it works when you're interacting with law enforcement. And it's like, there's no real grasp and understanding of the real power dynamic between you and that law enforcement officer that comes with a lot of different legal immunities and privileges, and also carries a gun. I keep talking about this because it is so extremely bizarre to me. So I don't like what happened to Alex, and Donald Trump has said he wants an investigation on Renee, and he wants an investigation on Alex. He's, Tom Homan's going to look after things going on in Minneapolis. He did call and talk to Walz, which what good does that really do? Because Walz was going on TV talking about how he would beat the crap out of JD Vance. I hate this two-faced thing about politics. Like, I hate it so much. Like, if it was me, I'm like, we ain't just gonna be on the phone chilling after you say X, Y, and Z. Like, we gonna at least have it out a little bit. Like, that's how I feel. We gonna be cordial, but we gonna be honest. We gonna be truthful. You ain't gonna be two-faced. We gonna present both of your faces at the same time. We gonna deal with both of them. I'm not gonna let you just go on TV and talk sideways, and we ain't gonna have a conversation about how you always sideways. But Trump is trying to rein in a lot of this chaos that's going on, at least from their end. Now, what Tim Walz and Jacob Frey and Democrats decide to do, which it looks like they're doubling down into some crazy territory. Even Josh Shapiro's out there saying some things that are pretty radical, especially if you want to be president of the United States one day. So I think they're going too far. There's rumors about different stipulations that Democrats want to have about funding DHS, as far as getting warrants for ICE to act, which is going to basically grind their operations to a halt. So they are really going on an extreme end. So if Trump can kind of hone things in, rein things in, and I still think maybe present a case to the American people about the necessity of what they're doing, and then I think Democrats will overplay their hand. It doesn't look like they're gonna get rid of Kristi Noem, by the way, because he is defending her, and I don't know how much of their dynamic is I don't know, just loyalty or other things going on. But I have mentioned I'm not crazy about Kristi Noem. Never have been. At least in the position of being head of DHS. But it looks like she's staying for the time being. Someone has said that Trump is surrendering. I don't see Trump surrendering totally what's going on in Minneapolis. They're just kind of regrouping what they're doing, and they're still going to try to enforce immigration law. And I think it's really obviously irresponsible to Walz, Jacob Frey, their sort of rhetoric that they have been spewing, even trying to mobilize the citizens. But I mean, the left has been doing that kind of crazy stuff. Just think back to COVID, how, basically snitch on your neighbors. And I live in Michigan, and our governor told people to like confront the neighbors about not following the laws as far as the COVID edicts. And I'm like, do not get in my face. First of all, it's a pandemic. Don't get in my face. But it's not going to go well if this random person going to come up to me and try to lecture me about life. Did you get your stabby stab? Did you get your jab? Then why you in my face? Like, so I'm like, people are already so aggravated about this stuff. They feel like their freedoms have been ripped away from them. There's people who are on high alert, who are very terrified and afraid. One of the reasons why I wrote my book, Slay Your Fear Out of Overcome a Spirit of Fear, that was during that time of COVID. And I was thinking about the line from Star Wars, when Yoda said that fear leads to the dark side. And how the fear turns to anger leads to hatred leads to suffering. And I'm like, I'm watching that in real time with how people are reacting to having so much fear over COVID, and people just become hysterical tyrants, and they really weaponized fear. And they're weaponizing that too when it comes to BLM. They weaponize that stuff right now when it comes to the border. There I saw a video of someone being detained, and they're a protester, and then they started getting arrested, and then he just started screaming, "Stop filming and save me, they're going to kill me." And I'm like, if you're that afraid, why are you out there? What are you protesting for while you're out there that you think is so worth your life? Are you just saying stuff? Do you really believe that they're going to just kill you like that? Because I wouldn't be messing with them if it was like that. Not for this cause. Like, I'm baffled. But in the comments, it was funny because it was just a bunch of people like with their phones, and they were posting people with cameras and bigger cameras and bigger cameras because, yeah, they're at the end of the day, they're just going to, like, what do you want me to do? I have a phone. Like, that's what I'm armed with. But they're very very delusional about this stuff. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with this case. As far as Alex goes, I did want to show this clip from Fox News that I thought was pretty good. It's about 3 minutes long, but it's a good explanation that mostly sums up how I feel and how it is really well articulated. So it's being shared around on X. So if you guys want to share that with other people, I think this really kind of nails a lot of it.
A couple of things. Number one, the Second Amendment is a right. I'm not a Second Amendment absolutist. You have the right to carry a weapon to defend yourself, not the privilege. It is a right. Those rights come with restrictions. I think you would understand that more than anyone at this table. One of those restrictions is you have to have your ID and your permit on you. We don't know. Current reports are he didn't have either one of those on, at which point he's not carrying legally. But number two, even beyond that, with the right to carry a firearm comes the responsibility to do it correctly and to do it with foresight and to do it understanding the situation you're walking into and what could happen once you get there. Just about every state offers a class on that. And if you carry your firearm, you should take that class. And if your state charges you for it, you should go protest for that class to be taxpayer funded because it is a right. So that's important. We can talk about policy all day long. There's only one person in this world that could have absolutely prevented Alex Pretty from getting shot that day, and it's Alex Pretty. That doesn't mean I think he should have been shot. I don't think it was necessary whatsoever to shoot Alex Pretty to save a life. But I get to watch that incident from behind Alex Pretty, not as one of the arresting officers and not as potentially the person that I believe from looking at the video did shoot him. Why does he have 10 rounds in him? Because if you have to shoot anybody once, you better shoot them enough to kill them, because if you're shooting somebody, you think they're trying to kill you. Every police officer in this country is taught that. If you want to change that, go lobby to have it changed. Why was he shot? He was shot because of the reasonableness clause, the reasonableness doctrine. The Supreme Court decided this, which is the fact that if you are a police officer conducting police work and someone has, and it's explicitly outlined, someone has resisted arrest, violently or not, disobeyed orders, and shown the means to harm you, then you have the ability to protect yourself. Now, do I think he should have been shot? No, because I see 10 things that happened before that happened that could have been handled differently. But what I don't see are the 10 minutes before that happened. You call him a protester, I call him an agitator. He showed up with a cell phone. He showed up in the middle of the street, in the middle of an operation. That's common sense. I don't care what your passions are. To carry a weapon on your person and to get in the middle of a police operation, whether you believe it or not, that is lawful. 100%. Another way it could have been prevented is if there was a police cordon from Minneapolis Police Department stopping people from, like Alex Pretty, from getting in the middle of the operation rather than holding a sign and speaking loudly and proudly from 100 feet away. That is the end of the story. There might even be a federal agent that goes to jail because some jury or a federal investigation decides he acted prematurely or shot him and shouldn't have. I'm not arguing or disputing that because I haven't seen the investigation. But I know for a fact Alex Pretty had no business where he was in that moment. I know for a fact that he did resist arrest. And if you are carrying lawfully, the moment you resist arrest, you are now carrying unlawfully, to the point that in the state of Minnesota, your carry permit is revoked in that moment. So the point here is nobody's condemned in this other than the politicians that let it happen. Yep. And if for you, that's Donald Trump, and if for you, that's Tim Walz, as an American citizen, I'm glad both of them talked today. This doesn't ever need to happen again. Border Patrol agents need to get to the border and do their job. Minneapolis Police Department, all 600 of them, if they need to be there to help ICE surgically extract people like, what's his name, Jose Huerta Chuma, who is violent rap sheet that includes domestic assault involving intentional bodily harm. I don't care who you are in this country, but if you're willing to risk your life for that person, whatever happens to you, my sympathy goes down quite a bit. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I love people. I even love bad people. But for God's sake, have some common sense. That's your responsibility, especially if you're carrying a weapon. And that was not exercised, and I can't help that.
So I thought that was a pretty good summary of what's going on. I will say, because I know a lot of people bring up the ID thing, I'm not 100% sure if that is the case, but if it is the case that he didn't have ID, as far as what's in the minds of the Border Patrol agents, that's not gonna really weigh in whether or not it was justifiable, the shooting, because how would they know that information? But as far as just from Alex's side of things and him being responsible, going there, etc., There were some bad decisions that obviously led up to what happened. And what is so annoying to me about this stupid state and so many of these elected officials that are just crazy people, they keep encouraging the nonsense. But it shouldn't surprise people. Tim Walz is a crazy man and a liar. The incredible lies they told during the 2024 election was just insane. But he's notorious. Keith Ellison is attorney general. Do you guys remember Keith Ellison holding up the Antifa book? Like that's their attorney general. Jacob Frey is a crazy guy. The lieutenant governor is the person who had the shirt that said like protect trans kids and there's the knives. These people are crazy in this state. And I know there's a lot of people who aren't crazy who live in Minnesota, because some people were like, Trump should just pull out all immigration enforcement, encourage all the illegals to go to Minnesota, let them deal with the issue. Just kind of do it like I guess how they were doing in New York or whatever when the Texas Abbott was, sending people from there to these sanctuary cities, and it didn't work out well for them or whatever. Just make it into this huge sanctuary state for all these people. And there's people in the comments like, no, please, I'm from Minnesota. Like, we're not all crazy. I don't know why you're staying there, man. I mean, I guess you can't surrender everywhere you live to the completely crazy people, but man, there are some really nutty people in Minnesota. Not every county or whatever is going to be insane, but someone said they disagree with me, but isn't it pretty? Thank you. I guess. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know, I feel like my take on what's going on in Minneapolis and what's going on in the state is pretty nuanced, I guess. I think with the Alex Preddy situation, I think there's a lot of fingers to point in a lot of different directions. And I think Axios, I believe it was Axios, reported that Kristi Noem, when she went out and said that Alex Preddy was a terrorist and stuff, that was information that was relayed from like Stephen Miller. And Stephen Miller is Trump's boy, who's been a very loyal and integral part of the administration for a while. So I don't know if that's kind of part of why Kristi Noem is not going to get thrown under the bus, because he's still going around and defending her. But, she and DHS obviously put out statements that were inaccurate, not a fair representation. I didn't even like really their statement after Renee Good was killed, even though I did argue that was that she was dumb and that was a more justifiable situation. But we'll see actually what the investigations and the courts end up deciding. I wanted to show you guys something else. Do you guys know who Tiffany Cross is? Tiffany Cross was on MSNBC and she had her own show, and she was deemed, I guess, too crazy and radical for MSNBC. And so she ended up losing her show, but they do ask her to come on CNN from time to time. Why? I don't know. I don't know, but she was on the other night. And Abby Phillips, I don't know why they're not just kind of, well, she kept repeating that Charlie Kirk was killed by someone who wasn't on the left, as someone was trying to have a conversation about how there's right and left wing extremist people, and she tried to pin Tyler Robinson on on the right, and that's just really not the case.
Hold on.
Well, I take your point, and I accept the data. I'm not saying it's exactly 50-50 equal, but let's also not forget Charlie Kirk was murdered. The president,
not by a left-wing extremist. That person espoused very right-wing extremists.
Look, if you look at the targets, if you look at people in office, there's
the right attacks the right.
People on, but there's Josh Shapiro, there's Melissa Horton, now there's Ilhan Omar on this side, there's Donald Trump on this side, there's Charlie Kirk on this side.
But you're saying that, but
I'm not saying it's exactly mathematically equal.
But it's not even analogous.
Take your data.
It's not even analogous.
On both sides.
The fact that there was an assassination attempt on the
it's not disingenuous. That is BS. And even the attacks that you're referencing, Ellie, those were right-wing people. Like, give me the example.
Hold on.
We really got to still have this conversation. We had a new year. And people still want to be up here wrong about Tyler Robinson and what happened with Charlie Kirk. I still have conversations with people on Charlie Kirk. So I guess I'm not terribly surprised. I mean, I'm still having conversations about the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff. Like, someone said the craziest comment about how Kyle Rittenhouse killed black people, and if he had killed white people, then Trump administration would have cared. And I'm like, how can like everything you say and believe about this thing be wrong? Just really wild stuff. Yeah, they said Kyle Rittenhouse killed black people, of course. Republicans and Trump defended him. If he would have killed white people, his butt would still be in jail. Kyle Rittenhouse showed up at a protest with his assault rifle showing and just picked a fight. But that is okay to Trump and Republicans. An innocent man is executed after his legally concealed weapon is taken off him, and he gets blamed for having a gun. This is a crazy world. And all this stuff about Kyle is wrong. Of course, he shot and killed 2 white people. He shot 3 people, but they were all white. Now there was a black person who like took a I think he took a swing at him like in the midst of like everybody like attacking Kyle, and Kyle didn't shoot. He didn't kill him or shoot him. And I'm like, man, that grace of God there, because that would have. It really shouldn't matter what color you are, by the way, when people weigh and think about these things. But unfortunately, I'm just acknowledging people's biases and how they feel. That would have been real bad for Kyle if he had shot and killed a black person. But they lied about it anyway. But there's still people out here who believe that he shot and killed black people, and then just to have the goal to say that he'd be in jail if he had killed white people when that's precisely what happened. And he also did not just show up at a protest with his assault rifle just to pick a fight. He was there to protect a car dealership like lot after, because there were cars and all kinds of stuff that were lit on fire. There have been riots that were pretty bad in Kenosha, and he lived in Antioch, which is like 10, I don't know if his house is 10 minutes away, but Antioch and Kenosha is like a 10-15 minute difference. Like he lived like on a border city. He was there earlier that day cleaning graffiti. Like, you cannot like that he was there. I think it's sad that civilians and citizens felt like they needed to take up arms to protect themselves from the riots. Like, I think that should have been something that the police and National Guard or whoever should have been able to rein in, and people shouldn't have had to feel like they needed to do any of that. And certainly it shouldn't have been the case that a 17-year-old felt like he needed to do that. But I don't know. I kind of feel like if people were rioting and were going to set my property on fire, I'd probably be outside with a AR-15 too. But or I have dudes out there to do that. But I don't know. I know a lot of people are invested in this case yet knowing nothing about it at the same time. Like, someone was asking me questions about it the other day, and they didn't seem to know anything about it either, which I just called them out. I'm like, you don't seem to know much about it. But they were so sure that he went out there to just murder people. Anyway, back to Tiffany Cross here. When she said that Tyler Robinson, I don't even know if she knows the name of the person who murdered Charlie Kirk, but she said he espoused right-wing politics or ideas. Like what? What did he espouse? He like came from a right-wing family, sure, but we know that kids can make huge left turns. They certainly can. Go to school, get radicalized friends, culture, from different stuff on TV or whatever, like wanting to fit in, want to be cool. There's all kinds of ways that maybe sometimes people just want to rebel. There's all kinds of ways that people can be radicalized and just part ways from what their parents believe. There was a guy the other night who threw, I think it was water, but some kind of liquid on Ilhan Omar. And some people are like, this was a left-wing attack. I'm not sure if we know the politics of the guy yet. Maybe that was updated. That information isn't. I don't know. But there are people who wanted to claim that he was left-wing because his kids were left-wing, and apparently his wife was left-wing. And that's not necessarily the case. Maybe he was right-wing and she indoctrinated the children and he couldn't take it. Now he's just a spurred lover or something, So you can't just look at one family member and then automatically go, that person is left or right or whatever. You have to actually look at what they espouse. As far as Tyler Robinson, catch this fascist? and him continuously talking about how hateful Charlie Kirk is and him having being into the furry stuff himself. And being a furry, I guess, doesn't necessarily make you on the left, but that is a very weird community. And but he was dating a guy who claimed to be a woman. And again, believe that Charlie Kirk was very hateful. Now, I know people tried to push at one point that he might have been like alt-right or a neo Nazi type of person, but that really wasn't the case either. So I like a Nick Fuentes kind of groiper or whatever, but it really didn't make sense because they would have probably felt that Charlie's views were hateful enough and extreme enough, not that Charlie had hateful views. So just nonsense. And for what purpose? Does she not know the truth, or does the narrative just continue to aid her in whatever she wants to spew? Because anyone informed on the matter will know the truth, but a lot of these people bank on the fact that you don't know anything and hope that you are extremely stupid. So Ms. Cross, I am not a fan of. Her show was pretty wild at the time that was on MSNBC, but she was too crazy, and they had to eventually take her show off the air. And another thing before I talk about the Holocaust Museum, I want to mention that the Senate Judiciary for the Democrats put out this tweet the other day about Anadith Dene Reyes Alvarez, who died in government custody. She had sickle cell and congenital heart disease, but couldn't access timely and adequate medical care. We need to reform immigration detention. Now, they put this out yesterday. Okay, yesterday was the 27th. She passed away in 2023. People question what was the purpose of them tweeting this out without the context that this happened in 2023. And I think I think it's kind of obvious because people would assume, at least, that it didn't happen in 2023, that it happened probably recently. And that is the impression that people like Shannon Watts and other folks are having when it comes to this particular tweet. And you can say, well, they didn't say that it didn't happen before. Okay, but why not be give a little bit more information? Like, if she did die in 2023, it seems like a weird thing to not mention and go from there. But I've seen quite a few people retweeting it, mentioning the fact that, oh, they hate the Trump administration. They need to stop the Trump administration. The Trump administration is so cruel. It happened under the Biden administration. Trump was not president in 2023. So that's another thing the Democrats are doing to be very sketchy during these times. Okay, last thing I want to mention. Yesterday was the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And I, again, wasn't able to stream because I kind of wanted to talk about my experience last year. I went to Yad Vashem, which is a Holocaust museum in Jerusalem. And I have a couple pictures from when I went in there, but I don't really have a lot because at first they told us not to take pictures. Like of the outside, it was fine, but not inside. And I didn't know if that was because they didn't want all the people like click to block the flow of traffic and kind of slow things along, because there were a lot of people there, like kind of in different rooms and stuff. So I could see how everybody like taking photos would slow things down. But that's at first what they told us when we came in. That's what our tour guide had told us. And then I started to see some people taking photos. And then I asked our tour guide, like, is it okay to take photos? And I wasn't trying to like get the other people in trouble, but she was just like, it's fine. And our tour guide thought, I guess there were rules against taking the photos or whatever, but she didn't like those particular rules. So she said that we could. So I took a few ones after that. I don't have them like pulled up. Maybe I'll post them later. But what it was interesting about the structure, it's like this big kind of triangle thing when you go inside, because they want you to have this feeling that they want you to be uncomfortable. Like when you go in there, like the ground, the floor is very hard. There's like very few places to sit. And the feeling they want you to have is like the walls are closing in on you. So it's supposed to be like very uncomfortable when you go in there. And I haven't been to the Holocaust Museum in DC. I think I've maybe been there's one in Michigan, not too far from me, but I don't know if I guess I would have been at school during that time if I had gone, but I'm not positive if I've been there. But there's one in Michigan that's pretty good. So when you first come in, the display that they have, they have like had projections of all these images of people who were victims of the Holocaust to just try to say, hey, these were the faces, these were the people, these were their lives, these were their dreams before they got, interrupted in such a terrible way. But when you go through an exhibit like that or a museum like that, they don't just like take you to a room and say, here's what the gas chambers look like and let that be the story. They take you around and kind of explain to you how those sorts of things happen, the ideology that rose within Germany and so on to lead up to that particular atrocity. So as we were going through the museum, and she was explaining, the different propaganda and conspiracies that were just pointed at the Jews. And there were economic issues in Germany after World War I. They had to pay reparations. Things were very hard. They had hyperinflation and all kinds of different things. And they blame social things on the Jews. They blame economic things on the Jews a lot. And it just built up a lot of animosity. Then there was like pseudo kind of science stuff that conspiracies that they focused on to push propaganda and to paint them as being subhuman. Some of the like propaganda stuff that they had, the museum was just like absolutely terrible. And there was eugenics, and then the rise of the Aryan race figure, and all sorts of ideologies that ended up coming together. And they would even use like anti-Semitic sort of things that past Christian leaders would say to lead to scorn against the Jews. It eventually stripped them of their civil rights and eventually led to mass killings. And so as I'm like walking through the museum and they're detailing some of this stuff, I can't help but think of a lot of modern rhetoric and conspiracies that have been pushed on the left and unfortunately the far right. And I have a lot of mutuals online who are Jewish, or people who follow me who are Jewish, and just it's heartbreaking hearing people seeing them harassed just for literally just for being Jewish in a lot of cases, and people being afraid to sport kind of Jewish symbols like Star of David or menorahs and other things like that. Um, because of different harassment, and then reading in the news about people being lit on fire because they went to a protest and wanted hostages returned home, or people being killed at synagogues and all sorts of different stuff. People, I don't like seeing people say Christ is king and then immediately talk about shut up Jew or things like that. Like there was this image of Ben Shapiro's sister, and she's just playing with her baby. And someone had commented under it, "That's a nice nose you got there." And then like, "Don't poke the baby's eye out," and then said Christ is king. Like what? There's no Christ in what you just said to that woman while she's just playing with her baby. And Candace Owens recently, she's had a lot of red flag kind of stuff for a while, for some years. But one of the craziest things she did recently after Ben Shapiro gave a speech on CPAC, she just kind of went nuts, I guess, super nuts. And she ended up making a plea to Black Americans to not focus like their anger about slavery toward white people, but to have it against the Jews. And a lot of people participated and had a hand in the slave trade, including Jewish people. Excuse me, but if we're just gonna absolve Europeans so we can drive like anger and hatred toward Jewish people. And then she was quoting from like different debunked books about the Torah, and other stuff, and not the Torah, but Jewish literature and other things like that, to say like, hey, Ben Shapiro hates Black people, and all kinds of different stuff. Sounded very much like typical leftist stuff that I hear all the time, but I guess she wanted to hurt Ben, so she just directly decided to attack Jewish people. But you see it from Nick Fuentes and Andrew Tate and the Fresh and Fit Guy Myron, and all kinds of different folks. And I couldn't help but think about that kind of stuff. The crazy conspiracies. Am I saying that another Holocaust or something that happened? I hope not. I hope like everyone's beyond something that terrible, something that evil. But I'm like, why try to spread the particular hatred like that at a targeted group? So anyway, we kept walking throughout the museum, and they start talking about how Hitler would use like religion and twist it for his ideology, and that if you were if you were a church and you wouldn't comply to Nazi ideology, they would come after you, and how the church was used as a weapon to come after Jewish people. But they said there were bright spots, and one of the figures that they had a display on, I recognized that Tucker Carlson had said something about them. It was Dietrich Bonhoeffer. some time ago. Well, it was some time ago now, but it happened recently at the time. So if you are unfamiliar with the clip, I'm going to go ahead and just play it.
Because once you start calling people Nazis, we really have no choice but to start shooting them. To be Dietrich Bonhoeffer and sort of reach the end of reason, or even Christianity. Bonhoeffer decided Christianity's not even, he's a Lutheran pastor. Christianity's not enough. We have to kill the guy. I'm not judging Bonhoeffer, who was a great man in some ways, but that's inevitable once we decide that people are Nazis. So
now Tucker Carlson was talking about how he doesn't like when people, you call them Nazis, because basically you have to jump to we have to kill you because you're such a terrible kind of person. And I do think it is appropriate, though, to call someone a Nazi if they are a Nazi, though. That's just the truth of the matter, right? I don't think we should do mob violence on folks, and if they do something illegal, then you charge them, and you let the justice system do whatever. But if someone is a Nazi, they are a Nazi in the case of, like, Hitler. But him invoking Bonhoeffer to say, he had abandoned Christianity to be in this plot to take out Hitler, and reason. It wasn't reasonable to stop Hitler. And then he's like, I'm not judging. You did. So I just thought it was interesting going through this museum. There's so much dark stuff, so much propaganda, so much. And there's this exhibit uplifting this German Lutheran pastor, theologian. And Tucker had before sit on his huge platform talking about Bonhoeffer in this negative sort of light. Like, you don't want to be like him. You don't want to have to get to that point where you abandon reason and even Christianity to take out Hitler. Which, by the way, someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that he was a part of the movement in, like, organization, like secret organization or whatever, resistance. Maybe he had a knowledge of it, but as far as, but I don't know, of him, like, taking part in an actual, like, plot to kill Hitler. I know they, like, railroaded the investigation or trial of it and convicted him, but I don't think they actually, like, really presented evidence of that. So I know people say that he was involved in that plot, but I did research and I didn't find, like, evidence of that. So I know he was accused of that, but I don't know if he, like, literally actually was a part of the plot. Did he help Jews in need and speak against the Nazi regime and help with the organization? It was a part of it, yes. But that actual thing, I haven't. Maybe I need to do more research. I just didn't see anything. So if someone has something contrary that could enlighten me, let me know. But so I had brought that up to the tour guide, what Tucker said, and she just was kind of in awe of some of the stuff coming out of the United States. And a lot of Jewish people were. We went to we had a dinner with a family, and one of the sons just asked, and he actually spent time in New York for, like, I think went to college and stuff, but he worked there for some time, but came back to Israel, and he's just kind of like, yeah, so why do so many Americans hate us? It was kind of sad to hear. And so we had, all different sort of thoughts to lay out and just try to present like people's issues and concerns and also propaganda as well. Like one thing that people didn't understand, and by the way, and I talked to the IDF about this because we went to go visit the IDF like on the first day we were there, which I forgot to put in my video because I didn't have any pictures of that. So I just kind of forgot what I was like going over my first day. But they were explaining like why they thought like some people, you know, the world or the media or whatever has issues with Israel. And so I was listening to them explain some stuff, and they seem to downplay like the religion aspect a lot to me. Or I don't know, maybe they're just kind of trying to be polite, but I'm like, you're in a room like of evangelicals, just like be blunt about it. We don't but listen to her kind of explanations of why she thought like the world kind of had it out for Israel. And so after she got done with her presentation, you know, we asked questions about October the 7th and like why wasn't the response faster and like all kinds of different stuff. And I'm like, okay, this isn't a question, but I don't know if you know this, but in America we have a lot of like Marxist ideology and like teachers that are in colleges and all sorts of stuff, and they see things in oppress versus oppressor dynamics. And for a lot of these people and the people that they teach and the people who they talk to online in their circles and stuff, they just see Israel as basically like as the white people, and they see the Muslims as the brown people, and you're picking on the brown people, and they see you as the oppressor and they are the oppressed. And they were just seemed kind of blown by that dynamic and the Marxist sort of ideology that has been infiltrating the colleges and stuff for a very long time. And so I'm just like, y'all gotta understand that. Also, like I talked about it at the dinner with the family, and they're just like, and the mother was like, yep, like she knows her stuff. Like, I'm following you online. I'm like, that's a lot of what's going on. They see everything in these like oppressor dynamics, and they just kind of didn't understand, like, we've been oppressed for so long, what do you mean we're the oppressor? Like they just didn't they couldn't comprehend it. I'm like, that's just kind of how it works. So anyway, I don't want anything like the Holocaust to ever happen again to the Jews or any group. Unfortunately, we do see genocides that occur, and governments that are insane and different ideologies that persist and teach people to not only hate but carry out acts of evil and massacre against people who are different than them or people who believe differently than them, and so on. So there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. And so you got to know a bit about history so you don't repeat it. But unfortunately, human beings don't actually change. It's always interesting to me when atheists say things like, I don't need a book to tell me right from wrong or that it's wrong to kill, etc., blah, blah, blah. And it's funny because our book actually says that too. Like, it says that the law is written on your heart. So you can be held like culpable. You're culpable for the decisions that you make, even if you never read the Bible, because one way or another, you have that, like, we'll just say it's a conscience or whatever that tells you right from wrong, or it should tell you right from wrong. But it's also the case that people suppress the truth. So people know what's right and wrong, but there are people who choose to do wrong anyway. And they will delude themselves into all sorts of evil actions to gain prestige, to gain power, or whatever. So people don't change. Technology changes. Culture can change. And all sorts of stuff, but people don't change. So opportunities for evil will continue to rise. But if you want a better world yourself, in a better world for those around you, and you want to affect your home, your neighborhood, your community, your county, your state, and just, you know, your country, and go out from there, you have to make decisions to be better, do better yourself. And as you hold yourself accountable, cast the beam out of your eye, you know, you talk to your brother and your neighbor, and you try to get them on the right path, and everybody, you know, acting as righteously and virtuously, you know, as possible. And a lot of these conspiracies that people have, whether it's, a lot of them are directed towards Jews, let's be frank, about controlling everything, which there's such a small population. There's less Jews today than there were in 1939. Isn't that wild? There's less of them today than there was in 1939. Maybe they're not a huge conspiracy to ruin your life. Maybe sometimes you make bad decisions, and people around you make bad decisions, and it's not all the Zionist or Israel, as some commentators pronounce it, or the Jews. Maybe it's you again. Maybe people around you. Maybe it's incompetence around you. Not everything is a grand conspiracy. I'm not saying there's not conspiracies or bad people in power making terrible decisions, but you have to look at these things with evidence and really connect the dots and go from there. So anyway, just some thoughts. Again, yesterday was International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and it was interesting going to Yad Vashem last year. And I'll have to maybe take my niece and nephews when they're a little bit bigger to go with them to the Holocaust Museum out in Michigan. But I haven't been to the one in DC. But just a couple thoughts. If you want a better world, be better. I'm gonna stop ranting now. You guys can hear I'm kind of getting the sniffles. I hope that's not the case, because it seemed like after I got back from Israel, I had a cold when I left there, and so it continued on, and I started getting maybe a little bit better for a little while, and then around Christmas, I ended up getting the flu. So I went to Israel in November. Then in December, I got the flu. And that was into January. And then even after I was done with the flu, I still had this like terrible sort of like feeling in my throat. Like it was like an itching and a kind of a block in my throat. And I just couldn't sing the way that I quite wanted to sing with confidence. And I just kind of felt like I got to the point where I was completely normal. And then my sister got a cold. So it was cold. It's been cold. It was cold last night, and I slept near a window. And I don't know. I hope I could knock it out with some medicine, because I really hate being sick. It's been like nonstop. But hopefully I'll be all fine. We can just continue recording. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, website, articles, videos, etc. So like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation to the website, because it does cost a stream, run my site, all the guests, so you guys get support. I very much do appreciate it, and appreciate you guys. Please check out my book, Bigger. It's a children's book about a baby dinosaur who wants to be bigger. And there's a link in the description where you guys can actually pick this up and get a signed copy if you would like. Anyway, God bless you guys, and I will see you next time.